It's summertime and everybody wants to be out on the lake. And so one of the fun ways to do that in our community is on the Steamboat Minnehaha. We're here today with Captain Aaron Person, and he's going to tell us all about this wonderful vessel. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, you're very welcome.
So can you tell us about the boat in its heyday?
Well, the boat was built in 1906 by the Twin City Rapid Transit Company. She's built alongside with 5 other identical sister vessels, so 6 of them in total. They were eventually called the streetcar boats by the community. And really what their purpose was to be an extension of the wonderful streetcar system that we had in the Twin Cities back 100 years ago. If you lived on Lake Minnetonka, or in the Twin Cities in general, you could go all the way from Stillwater in the east, all the way out here to Excelsior in the west. And if you lived on the lake, you could board one of these boats and take it to your private dock, if you hailed them down, or 26 other ports of call that were designated around the lake as well.
So what happened to the boat? Why did it stop? Why did the system stop?
So they were very popular for a long time, but then when the 1920s came in, so did the automobile with Henry Ford, Model A, Model T, and you could get them in any color so long as you liked black, so the saying goes. But nonetheless, they were very popular, the cars were, and it really did the streetcar boats in. People stopped riding them, people who lived out there, especially more affluent people, because they obviously could afford automobiles before the more middle-class people could. And the company started losing money on the streetcar boats. They decided in 1926 to get rid of them. And it sounds really weird today, but back in the old days, what you just did when you wanted to get rid of something, you just plain old threw it in the lake.
So how did they decide to bring them up?
In 1979, a local diver from Wayzata, his name is Jerry Provost, he was flying around in his Cessna airplane, and the legend goes that he saw the shadow of the boats down in the deep part of the water just north of Big Island. So he, along with his big team, raised the boat in August 1980.
And it took a while to remodel it, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It sat up on shore for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Because there was no restoration plan in place and no set owner, none of the legal stuff had been taken care of. And it rotted away more in those 10 years than 54 years at the bottom of the lake did.
Wow.
In 1990, the ownership of the boat was transferred to the Minnesota Transportation Museum, our predecessor, and they restored the boat completely to its former glory. It took $500,000 and about 80,000 volunteer hours. And by 1996, she had been put back into service, and we've been enjoying her every season since out here. And this is our 20th year.
And you do tours.
Yep.
Tell us about the tours.
So the tours, we have 5 of them, 5 regular tours. 4 of them leave from Excelsior here. And then we have one cruise during that time that we leave from Wayzata called Minnetonka's Gold Coast. And that's actually our only departure from Wayzata.
So you're the captain of the boat. Tell us about operating this vessel.
Well, it's a lot easier than it might seem on my behalf, although dealing with other boat traffic is the most difficult part. But I pretty much just steer the vessel, and then I tell everyone else what to do.
I love that.
It's very old school technology, essentially 19th century technology. And I drive the boat, and then I tell the engineer, who's back by the engine, tell him what direction to go in, how fast to go. And we have a whole code of bells, a bell signal code. So it's kind of like our own little language.
Go ahead.
So an example would be 4 bells is full ahead, 3 bells is half ahead. And then if you want to get confusing and move from ahead to going astern, do 1 plus 3 bells, that would be half astern, for example.
How big is your crew?
Our crew, it takes at least 3 people to operate the boat. It requires a captain, an engineer dealing with the engine, and a purser who handles lines and also handles tickets and makes all the passengers happy as we're underway. Total in our organization, we have about 75 volunteers total. About half of them, maybe a little bit more than half, are crew members, and then we have a whole behind-the-scenes team as well, marketing and advertising and archival stuff and whatnot. So we have a good team.
Excellent. And all volunteers. You're a volunteer
We
as
are
well.
all volunteers, yes.
Can you tell us how you got to be a captain?
You could say I was 3 years old. That was the first time I drove the boat, but it was 6 years now as a little kid. The captain let little kids drive, and I was one of them.
cute.
And I have lots of them do it today, so it's a kind of full circle deal. But I've been an official crew member for 6 years now.
And you're also a historian for the group as well, correct?
I am kind of acting as the interim president and do our annual training seminar, and I do have a good time doing it. I'm learning a lot myself.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, oh,
It's
you're
been
very
great-
welcome, Beth.
Great talking to you. So now we're going to take you out on a tour. We want to thank Captain Person for joining us today, and thank you too, and wish you all happy sailing.
The express boats operated from 1906. They were designed to look like and feel like a trolley. That's why they're this color.
Well, this is where I drive the boat, and it's a very large wheel, as you can see. And a lot of people ask us if it is original to the boat, and it is an original wheel, but not to the Minnehaha. It was actually from her sister vessel, identical sister vessel, the Hopkins. And the Hopkins, unlike the other streetcar boats, was not scuttled in 1926. It actually remained in service as an excursion boat until 1949. Before it was scuttled in 1949, a couple of rascals, let's say, from Excelsior here, they went on board the boat the night before it was scuttled and allegedly stole the wheel off of the boat because they knew that it was going to be sunk underwater and wanted it for their own use. So they used it in their family as a coffee table for the greater part of the 20th century.
2 hands, just like on the pirate ship. One more.
That's exactly pirate ship.
So this is our beautiful engine. It's a steam engine, and we're actually the only authentic passenger boat that's homeported in Minnesota so far as we know, at least the only commercial steamboat. And this steam engine, just like the wheel, is not original to this boat, but it is vintage, and it's virtually identical to what would have been on the boat originally. This engine was actually built in 1939 or so. It was built by the US Navy and used as a training engine before World War II. And it was used a few times, but for the greater part of the 20th century, just sat as a piece in a museum out in San Diego. Now, when the boat was being restored in the 1990s, the people that were running this museum heard that we needed a steam engine and that we were tinkering around with other engines, but if we wanted to be authentic, we needed their engine because this was essentially the same thing that would have been on the boat originally and had enough power and whatnot. So we put a crew together, had a semi-truck go out and fetch this engine, brought it all the way back up here to Minnesota from San Diego, installed it, and she's been working beautifully for the past 20 years now. If you'd like to learn more about the Steamboat Minnehaha and the Museum of Lake Minnetonka, visit steamboatminnehaha.org or visit us at our office at 37 Water Street in Excelsior.